Kumitas?
Yes.
Landers?
Yes.
Rapp?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
motion for approval of regular meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda as presented.
Second. Roll call.
Schrader?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Rapp?
Yes.
Landers?
Yes.
Kumitas?
Yes.
Espinoza?
Yes.
Haas?
No public comment submitted.
No, ma'am.
Moving on, a motion for consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including 5.1 disposition of minutes for December 2023, 5.2 payment of bills, 5.3 district treasurer's report, 5.4 the Empress and Activity Fund report and cafeteria report, 5.5 the personnel report.
And a second.
Second.
Haas?
Yes.
Espinoza?
Yes.
Landers?
Yes.
Rapp?
Yes.
Kumitas?
Yes.
Williams? Schrader?
Yes.
Informational items.
So we did have a FOIA request this month. Every January, we get a request from the Illinois retired teachers, just so they can keep their database up to current. There you go. Okay.
And moving on to your report, do you have remarks for the years, or should we stop here? Okay, so, prior to moving on with our reports, we wanted to, for those of you that are not aware, Joel Johnson passed away a few days back. Joel dedicated a very large majority of his life serving as a board member here. Yeah, 35 years is a very long period of time, probably the longest in, I would assume, record holding in our district, but, I had the opportunity to serve for a number of years with Joel, and I will say that while it was kind of funny that he dropped his school code books in front of him at every meeting or every year, you couldn't have found somebody that's heart was more in it for the right reason. And Joel will tell you he worked on all of our buildings and laid that sidewalk, and he wanted us to be the ones to get out there and paint the bleachers. He was a very hands-on board member, so we joined with his wife, who's also part of our community here in 289, and his family, and sharing our condolences and sympathies to them. Joel's an incredible person and had an incredible impact on our district. So if anyone wants to share anything else.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Couldn't
she's
agree more.
gonna say you said very
Couldn't agree more.
All right. So moving on, your superintendent report.
Couple of pieces. If you get a chance, if you bump into Dustin Kent or any of our custodians, give them an attaboy. They have been, shoveling and scraping and keeping boilers running, and they do a tremendous amount of work when the weather is at its worst. And so we're super appreciative of him and those custodians as well. I forwarded it to each of you and also let the buildings know finally some go from GRP Wakeman on our solar install. So it looks like they finally have all the parts, and of course now that they do, the weather's not cooperating at all. And so as soon as they get a little sunshine and some clear track, they'll be starting it Lincoln. Speaking of GRP Wegman, we have every intent that Scott will be here next month to not only update us in person about that solar install, but then also talk about some of this and next summer's work.
Will he be discussing the boiler at that time?
We will start conversations next month in earnest about our summer 25 work. And I know that seems like a really long way away, but one of the things that we've learned is you really need to have as long a lead time as possible. And so, that summer of 25 progression is what can we do HVAC wise to take the boilers at Blackstone and Northbrook completely offline and no longer rely on that technology. which unfortunately fails when the weather gets super cold. And so to bring everything up to date. And so we'll start those conversations in earnest.
Very good. Anything else with that one?
Nope.
Okay. We had no committees or reports, so next up is the school calendar, which everybody received a copy of. Do you wanna just review the highlights you said before?
Yeah, you bet. Very similar to this year's, first day of student attendance is gonna be the Friday after Sweet Corn Festival.
After Sweet Corn Festival.
Yes. And then, the way Christmas falls, the high school, has the same break as we do, which will be, I think Christmas is like on maybe Monday or Tuesday, and so, there's a long stretch after New Year's. I think our first day back, is like the 6th or 7th. And so, like we've done in the past, when we're open in the high school, that's fine. Those last couple of days before Christmas will be early, 1:30 dismissals. We do have, we're able to get in the calendar this year, Halloween as a half day, which everybody seems to love. That way we can, get our Halloween parties done and get kids where they need to be at a good time. And then again, our spring break matches up with the high school as well, which also matches up with the vocational center. So none of their high school kids miss those vocational classes by having spring breaks that don't have overlap. So.
Very good. Did you have any questions, Amanda?
I just wanted to see it, and I don't feel like I never got it.
Yeah,
but I'm
spring break
looking
for
it.
us continues to be tied to
It's been a
Easter.
while ago.
I
Right.
know that's not always the case
Yeah.
everywhere, but
Was the other day?
It was the other day,
Was
Pat.
it an add-on to it?
It was an add-on, I think.
Over you?
what's that?
Amanda can't find it.
No,
It's
I
the
never
last
did see
page
it.
in the board packet.
Yeah, it was,
Do you want a copy?
It was white and green.
yeah, if you have it handy.
Yeah.
I got the update, I got the contract.
Can you just walk us through really fast how you get to that? The calendar, there's a committee, right?
So there's not,
Okay.
and,
With the high school?
and so, yeah, meet with the high school and collaborate there. In the past, I have had a draft that's, run by the association, but there's literally no changes with this year's. So in each, this year and next year, we're kind of taking, you know, a unique model with parent teacher conferences, kind of splitting those days. I think one is like a Tuesday, Thursday, and the next is a Wednesday, Thursday, just trying to get some feedback from the teachers over the course of a couple of years to see what model they like best on those.
And I wanna be respectful of your opportunity to look at it, but let me
Now,
know
you're
whether
okay, I know by the
moving
time it gets to
forward.
me, I'm just a nod of the head, but I was always curious, kinda like you said, how you come up with it. I know it's gone through so many people before me that,
Well, and we're bound in some ways by the high school. A lot of ways by the high school.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it makes sense, we're one community, so shared busing, like,
Yeah, so when you sit down and you say, well, we're gonna start, first day with kids is gonna be the Friday after Corn Fest. Okay, well, and then Christmas is gonna be 3 weekends, and we try to work with the schedule to get, with the high school to get that as close as possible. And then you figure out when spring break is. That's kind of the whole calendar, and it's just a matter of, you know, which Wednesdays are we gonna do, you know, half days, and, you know,
We
and
just
then
did that.
decide to coordinate
We
that.
We got to.
why don't we
perfect
rotate
day.
between, MLK Day and Casimir Pulaski Day? Just always curious.
We take them both off.
Okay. Yes, you do. That was February.
And it's, you know, there are some schools that don't take Pulaski off, but the stretch between the January 1st and whenever your spring break is, that's the toughest stretch of the school year.
East
and so-
Coast does, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yep, no, you're right.
They do February vacation. I just know
it is hard when it's this late.
Yep. There are a lot of schools, which I really love the model of,
It's a
it's
week.
it's always the third week in March.
Yeah,
or the fourth week in March. There are whole counties that do it that way. Ours historically has always been tied to Easter, and which that's fine too. If the high school and the vocational center really are a huge driver in that.
Sure.
Because we don't wanna get the high school crossed up and have their kids, if their break is opposite, is a different week than the vocational center's break, then those kids really get put in a bind, and so we wanna make sure that we're not doing that. So if the vocational center goes to, you know,
Which is LPs.
Which is-
LPs starting August 7th.
yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Well, the other thing with that too is if you don't tie it to Easter, most districts still have the Friday, Monday off. So we'd still have to put those 2 additional days in that we can otherwise take, like a Casimir Pulaski Day off that you wouldn't be able to do, so.
Well, and a long time ago, they took Casimir Pulaski day off because that was the Washington DC trip that they took. So if you did the Washington DC, like back in the day, there was 100 kids that went to Washington DC over Casimir Pulaski, cause that was when we went. Yeah, cause I think Josh went, didn't he, from Holy Cross? You didn't go?
Okay. So if there's no other questions, could we have, a motion to accept the 24-25 school calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 school calendar as presented.
And a second,
Second.
and roll call.
Williams,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Landers,
Yes.
Rapp,
Yes.
Camitas,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Espinoza.
Yes.
Item 7.2.
yeah, so, this time last year, we went through a lot of good conversations, and at the end of that, it was basically, that come back, you know, every January, we would, look at renewing a 4-year contract. Only have to do this a couple more times, and so,
This is a unique model. Not a lot of places do it, but some do.
some do.
And we did have our lawyer look at the model before we decided to go this route, and there were advantages with it because it gave consistency and stability for both the district and for Brad. It's not approving a new 4 years, what we're doing is we roll the final year, like we just keep extending the final year of it, and so it's a constant rolling contract.
Correct.
So it's not like we do this now and then we don't talk about it for 4 years and then do it again, it'll be an annual renewal, but we did, I remember all those conversations with Susan, it was all, you know, worked out and it there were no issues with us being able to do something like this as opposed to only talking about it once every 3 years or 4 years.
For sure.
Are there questions about it though? I'm assuming board members, like any questions about that? No. Okay. If there's no questions, then, we do, and it was in the board packet, but just in case you didn't, like, we followed that same raise percentage like we did with our other administrators and union.
Correct.
Okay, and if there's no other questions, could we have action to approve the superintendent contract as presented?
A motion to approve superintendent contract.
In a second.
Second.
And roll call.
Rapp,
Yes.
Landers,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
Camitas,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
You're
Okay.
stuck with us another year.
Teresa, can I ask a question?
Of course.
Maybe it's off subject. Did, last year at this time was when we approved, administrative contracts over at Lincoln. Has there been another survey like the one that was done last year from the union?
I can check.
Okay,
Yep, you bet.
okay.
You bet.
Like, I just like to see like
Yeah.
what the opinion is, like especially like right now and just like to see where the vibe is.
Yeah.
Sure bet. You bet.
It's about the time of year that they, usually do it.
Yep. No, and, I very much appreciate the partnership. I think that we're really doing some really great things. We've got the ball rolling. And as we'll talk about in just a little bit, a lot of that stems from a lot of your focus as well. And so, my family and I couldn't be happier.
All right, Board of Ed meeting locations, we're tour the district.
Yep, so we're getting ready to start our rotation, so next month we'll be at Lincoln. We'll let you know exactly where that is. Then March, we'll be over at Blackstone, and I'm pretty sure that will be in their updated teacher
The
lounge.
pretty room, our favorite.
The fancy- the fancy
Burberry
one.
dreams are firm.
That room's got great vibes, it's where we settle our contract with them.
Hopefully-
That's true, we spent lots of time in that room.
Hopefully Lincoln can get a room like that.
And then and then in April, we'll be over at Northbrook. My assumption is that we'll be in one of the new classrooms that used to be old library space, so everybody can see how that turned out and what that functionality looks like now.
And on those evenings, those administrators would be
They will
with
be in
us.
attendance, correct. You bet.
Cool.
Not for sure if I told Jeff yet that, but.
I was just thinking that. Does he know he's first up?
Right. He will.
He's got a month notice.
That's right.
He's done this for,
20
like, come on.
20 times. He's doing great.
Well, on that note, let's move on to discussion 8.2.
Great transition for sure. You know, and we've kind of talked about, as we look at just the model of, you know, what the administrative team looks like and what the principalships look like for 289. You know, one of the things that has really kind of been driven home recently is how important it is to have somebody dedicated to each building. I know really kind of kicked around for the last couple of years, the model of maybe sharing some principals across buildings. But, which I think still might be on the table, but I think, I really want to pursue our kind of position A, opening it up, seeing if we can get somebody, you know, that's high caliber, to come in and be the building principal over there. And I think we have a couple of different models that we could fall back on if we don't find, you know, somebody that we really like, but I'm pretty confident that there's some really good people out there.
Is that job description something that we can look at before you
Sure.
post it? I'd just be interested to see kind of what we're putting out there about our community and recruiting somebody in.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a principalship in this smaller districts is so much different than a big district where you have district office admin to support you, because in a lot of ways they are the building's HR person and the building's, you know, discipline expert, and everything, you have
Sure.
to be everything, so make sure that we spend the time and effort, and our other two principals clearly have been here a very long time. I'm gonna get somebody in that's not looking for just a stepping stone, somebody that's really committed to being there and helping to really drive home a positive culture in that building. I know one of the other things we talked about, and I don't know whether or not this would be a step two, we did talk at one point about, on the shared model perspective, of maybe looking at an assistant principal splitting time. And I'm just wondering, depending on who we bring in for principal at Lincoln, if maybe it would be a good time to bring in some additional support, because the thing is, when you guys have like admin meetings, which are super important, there's no admin in that building. Or like if there's if there's a behavior issue and the principal's assisting with that, and then there's a discipline issue in the hall, there's no other person, there's never a second person, which I know here you have,
We do have lead
but-
teachers in
Yeah.
buildings, and
They're
they've
teaching.
been really, influential in how things have been handled and shaped. But you're right, those are also classroom people
Mhm.
as well.
I just wonder what that would look like if we could, I mean, I'm sure it runs very differently here when you've got multiple people that can help step in with situations there, and I don't know, I guess the other thing I don't know is Lincoln's, cause Lincoln had some more issues over the last couple of years than we've seen historically.
Correct.
So I don't know if that's the kids coming through, or if that was a sign of some of the struggles at the leadership level in that building. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and I kinda wonder, like, to go along with that, and like we had talked, I understand like why we have an assistant principal here, but I think Lincoln is just, I'm gonna take this because Lincoln like holds a special place in my heart from going there for 6 years. Lincoln is just as important as Northbrook, in my opinion. It's that middle age, having taught 3rd grade, and I think sometimes people forget that building's there. You know what I mean? So I think, and especially with the struggles that's been over there for like at least the last 3 years, I think we need to make sure that maybe we look at having an assistant, you know what I mean? Because, yes, I agree with, like, lead teachers are good, but they're teachers. Like, you know what I mean, they're teachers, and then it also makes that opinion of, well, I'm the lead teacher. Like, you know what I mean, like, no,
Right.
like.
Lead
if you-
teachers should be there to influence and assist the other teachers, not having to replace
Yes.
the administrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think if it's something that, like, we, to support those students at that building, what's happened, we need to make sure that we put them in the best situation to succeed, so.
Okay. That's definitely something that we can give some thought to.
And our assistant principal position is 10 months, right?
Hours here,
Yeah.
yeah, 10 months.
So it's not as expensive as a. Any other thoughts on it?
I mean, my initial thought is, and I'm not an expert at any of the buildings, nor do I work there, but I don't know, I feel like a good principal would be fine with the 3 grades in that building, and I don't know that we need an assistant principal, but, I mean,
Yeah, I guess
like,
that's
that's my initial thought.
Yeah, my question too is how often does it arise that we need a second person there?
Yeah.
I mean, are we overreacting to the few times a year when things, when we have a child, we've had, pounding on the doors or whatever, how often do those occur that we could justify a whole new position at the administrative level?
It would be interesting to see, I know it, at least in the times that I was spending in it was a daily occurrence that there was something that required their response, and so not being able to sit and like plan at a desk and spending most of the day responding to behavior issues and discipline issues and emergencies and transportation issues, but like, all of those things when you have an assistant principal are nice, cause they can, IEP meetings, like all of those things can be done by an assistant principal, which then gives the principal the time to actually plan and spend time in classrooms and coach teachers and like do the things that they're not bogged down with on the daily, like every time that radio goes, they're the one person that goes. And so then that's it, like, and if somebody's in major meltdown mode and it's gonna be 90 minutes, like, they're there for 90 minutes, cause they're the person that's responding, and then they're not able to do anything else. And I would just love, as we move more strategic in our thinking, to think about ways to support those buildings to allow them that opportunity as well.
I'd like to also see what Jeff's take is, like, from his years, and just like seeing where they're at, and like what that building really needs from us. Because he obviously has that, he's taught here, and then he went to HBR in an administrative role, and now he's in that retirement, but he still has all the years of experience. Like, I would like his evaluation of
I kinda like that idea.
the strong points of that building, and taking it from like him being in that building. Like, what do we need? Like, how can we best support whoever we put in there? Because even if it's a veteran and administrator, we have to support them. Like, and not dump it on Stacy, and not dump it on Paula, and not, you know what I mean? Like, we have to support them, because they're also gonna change the climate of that building.
Random question, so like, if we have this idea on the table or whatever, would this person float between Blackstone and Lincoln? Is that like an idea, or are we
I
thinking
think-
just a Lincoln?
No, I mean, my thought was to support both in those ways where the nice thing is you would be able to give your principals back that block of time to know I can literally work on my evals, I can do it, I can block this time and know that I'm not the one person responding to every radio call. And so I think if we could build that in a way that the two buildings could both benefit from that, I think it would be fabulous.
So then the reason I ask
But-
is just because of Holly's idea, like maybe even also asking Stacy as well, and even Paula with her having that at Northbrook, and
Yeah.
just see how it would meet our needs. I mean, again, I'm not there every day, and my initial reaction is we've been fine for years with just the building principal in each building, and I feel like for the most part everything's okay, but again, I don't know. And obviously, everybody could always use that extra assistance, so.
I can definitely have some conversation with my administrator.
Yeah.
and see if we
Yeah.
can
Feel
come
it
back
out,
with
see
some
what they think.
suggestions. Yep.
And if it's not gonna be that, then maybe we just more purposeful with making sure, like, on those days when you do pull all the principals out of the buildings, that,
Could you hire a sub-admin that on those days? Like a
Well,
third
is-
person to come in, cause I know.
or like,
admins
could you
have
assign,
sub.
well, cause then, when you pull your admin, do you pull everybody, like AP for every Wednesday, so, yeah. So, I mean, there is times when they're not,
See, in LaSalle, it used to be like if all admin got pulled out of a meeting or to a meeting in one of the buildings, then a teacher that had their masters stepped into that admin, and then you had to find a sub and then you paid them for that day.
So like I said,
Yeah.
our team can look at a couple of different
just, I think,
models
yeah,
and
just let them
bring
know
back some
that
ideas.
we're interested in making sure that whoever we bring into this role feels very supported, and that building feels supported, and
You bet.
it's a
How
huge
often
space
do you
too.
guys have the admin?
It's in theory every Wednesday morning for about 90 minutes or 2 hours, but it turns out to be probably 2 or 3.
Okay.
Because like we don't have them on Wednesday
Right.
early hours, that kind of
Yeah.
I guess my next, the other question that I would have, if when we do that search process, and probably do that in a couple of waves, would any of the board members be interested in being on part of an interview committee?
Could we have the board be one of the rounds that they meet with, like, after you've kinda done,
I don't have any issue with that.
like, you know, for you looking at two or three, like, kinda similar to the process we had superintendent
Yep.
search. Just 'cause it's such a key role in this district.
And that building is.
You bet.
Unless anybody doesn't wanna be part of it, but I feel like everybody's gonna wanna. Do you not wanna be part of it? Do you, Amanda? If everybody's not really like all in, we can just pick people and form up to join the committee. Brenda, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Gary? If we go 3 or above, we might as well do it at a meeting,
For
cause it
sure.
would have to be a meeting anyways at that point.
Yep, for sure. Oh, perfect.
So, okay.
What's the update on our, ISB? Having another meeting with ISB, off subject. I should
Oh,
ask.
no, I have
No.
not, they changed the lady again, so
Yeah.
like on our third lady, so I haven't gotten
Okay,
from
no, that's fine, I just was
dates
wondering.
from her, back yet, but.
Sorry, I just thought about it as we're talking about all that.
Miranda.
I'm good with 8.2. Everybody else is good.
One more thing. You know how we talked about wanting to look at the job description? I think it would be, I loved the process that we used when we built the job description for the superintendent, where we received feedback from, the community, the teachers, the parents. Like, I don't know that we'd have to be like that broad, but I think it would be great for parents in that building to identify what they think is going really well, what strengths they would like to see in a leader, and I really, really think it'd be important to hear that from the teachers, and then make sure that those priorities are represented in the job description, so that we're kind of all on the same page for what we need for that building.
Yes, I agree with what you said.
Do you see a lot of cooperation out of the parents in these surveys?
We actually had it, yeah.
Yeah, we could bring it.
I think the younger grades is, I think it falls off the older they get.
Maybe just tracking the emails.
Well, new parents are more motivated, and they
Mhm.
just get tired.
Yeah, I mean,
Look at Amanda.
you're still checking folders and planners at that age. When they're in high school, it's like, So, yeah, we usually do, and I think something as important as a principal, I would hope that they would.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, grant update.
Yeah, just wanted to take a minute, Amanda and I were just kind of chatting a little bit, so, We've had now a couple of meetings with Amy Short. She's coordinating the drug abuse and wellness something grant. And so some really positive conversations about not only ways that the grant can help us offset some of our existing costs, but then also ways in which the grant might be able to bring additional resources to bear. So very excited about it.
So it's still ongoing meetings?
It is. Yep, it is.
Are those meetings also, like, when you meet with them, is it you guys and the high school, or does she meet individually?
Separately.
Okay. All right, 8.4.
Yeah, we haven't done this in a while, so I just wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity. This vision document is one that we tried to use to channel our energies, to make sure that as we do things as an organization, it falls within the lines of what the board community are looking for as far as improvement. And so, maybe at some point in time, the next year or two, maybe the board would want to take, a work session and kind of just do a check-in on this. But these are all really good things, and so we're going to continue to do. I couldn't imagine even as the board kind of edits and spend some time touching in on this. A lot of this, I think, is probably going to stay, in a really good, in a similar direction. But as you go down through this, the last update was in blue. The additions on it are in red, and so to just kind of work through this a little bit. 1A was on integration of technology. One of the things that we're excited about is here in the next couple of weeks when our one-to-one deployment is actually going to go down to 6th grade, and so that's a model that we continue to get more comfortable at. We continue to be more engaged with respect to how we're going about teaching and learning in those older grade levels. And so we'll go down to 6th grade here very soon, and we'll see how that settles in. The assumption is we won't stop there. Excuse me. 1B, professional development, something that I think that we've been doing really well lately. Just this last Teacher Institute, kind of jumping ahead, but we had a real focused run, hide, fight training with the police. We had stop the bleed tourniquet training, and with one of the local hospitals, and so we continue to plan, utilize not only those full day teacher days, but our half day early outs. We have one coming up next week, but that by contract is teacher work time. We'll have a coordinated one in February, then our March one will be with the high school, and so we continue to meet with the high school and in a formal setting, which the phone calls here, but we continue to work on that. We've been sending teams, on the PD side. Not only do we utilize all our in-house work, we also coordinate with the regional office and all of the regional office of education trainings, all of our LEAS, special ed cooperative trainings. We've been sending teams to statewide conferences, the PE conference. In March we'll have the statewide reading conference. There's a kindergarten first grade conference coming up. We've got talks about sending a team to the national kind of foreign one conference in June, and so PD is something that we really think is super important.
You mentioned in last year's that you did surveys periodically. Is that something you're still doing?
Yep, you bet. And we do it one time of year in kind of one big chunk, but we also do it in little chunks throughout the year. We just had a questionnaire go out at Blackstone and Lincoln just today on technology and servicing, and so we just kind of do that periodically as well. Then on 1C, and this is something that we've talked about in this room as well, interest survey going out on student activities. We continue to add as we go through, and we want to continue that model. We want to continue to do that, and actually, if there are some activities that we can add, that might be another way that we can partner with the Mendota grant that we were just talking about earlier. So that will go out. You should get that information back here fairly shortly. Also on the achievement side, I put in the most recent FastBridge scores. And so you can see that those are going to be the fall 21, 22, and 23 numbers. And so those are, I don't think I had it in there, but those are grades 2 through 8. Averages. When you look at that number, the national norm would be 60. So that's kind of what our target is as we kind of go along.
The norm or like the score? Like,
The way that FastBridge is reported, so if we can get to having 60% of our kids in the top 2 tiers, then that would be what the national average is. Having 60% of your kids in the top 2
So we were
tiers.
significantly lower than that. But that was couple years.
Those
So
were
that
couple
national
years.
number was probably a lot lower too.
And that curriculum.
Yeah, and that national average is like a 10-year trend. So when COVID came, everybody's scores would have dropped as well. So you can see that what we're doing is headed in the right direction. On D and E, those pieces were those grading systems and behavior systems. Those were parts of just some of the conversations that have gone through that CSS group. Just last month, Paula Daly was here presenting on the latest update on that group and the work that's being done. And so a lot of really positive work being done, getting everybody on the same page, using the same grading systems, using the same, the same number of grades, same types of grades, making sure that teachers are talking, trying to get away from, where we have 2 cousins, one in one in the classroom A and one in classroom B in the same grade level, and having drastically different educational experiences. Again, we're not trying to have carbon copies of classrooms. We don't. We're not. Everybody needs to be on page 14. That's not the conversation for sure. But the whole point of the conversation is to have that continuity. So as a student goes from 2nd to 3rd grade, a lot of the pieces are in place already. They don't have to relearn the systems. They don't have to relearn most of the mechanisms in the schooling itself. And so those have been super good conversations, some of them pretty hard conversations. So we'll definitely continue that.
Before we move to finances.
Of course.
Can
Yeah,
we take
anybody
it by
just jump
chunks?
in.
Yeah, let's take it by
For sure.
chunks. So, in this first section, I, in 1C, I know we were real particular when we built this one about student growth and opportunity achievements for all students. And I think when we talk about all students, our special education students sometimes aren't part of that. They're not part of our traditional scoring system. I know we had a small presentation, and when we compared some of our benchmarking scores, they weren't good. And when we asked about it, it was, yes, we're seeing individual growth within a student year over year, but we should have at some point be able to, if that student were to move, like their education should be applicable somewhere else. And I wanna make sure that we're like keeping up from the peer perspective, and so however that assessment and planning looks, I wanna make sure that we're not losing that subset of our population as well. And FastBridge does our EL students too, right?
It does. It's everyone, for sure.
Okay. But I know I've had a conversation with a few board members, if anyone else wants to elaborate on that. I think coming on.
No, yeah, I agree with that. That was important when we set these up.
Yeah. The other thing, I think, in looking at like the technology one, I love that we're making progress. I'm curious to know, cause this is kinda like reporting after the fact, I'm curious to know like what is the technology plan moving forward, because a lot of those things are very expensive, and we had a good chunk of money come in a few different times. We were able to purchase devices with over time, but like if the plan is that by 2025 it's in 5th grade and, you know, we keep, like it'd be nice to see that technology plan, so as we allocate resources, we know kind of when do those the projectors, like what's their life cycle look like, and,
Yeah.
I just.
I've got that all on my board, we've already worked all through all
Okay,
that.
good.
Yeah, 'cause we
I can
talked
get
about
you a
that,
copy
we
of
talked
that.
about that when we were talking about if we would go
Mhm.
one-to-one.
Yeah.
Because
Like the
then
rollout
also
overall.
thinking about like, if we went one-to-one, could we then be, for example, if we were a whole district one-to-one, could we go, you know what I mean?
E-learning on
Learning
a-
You don't
remotely.
have to be one-to-one.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
because,
Yep, I can get you that copy of that hardware.
cause I remember that was a big
Yeah, I
discussion
think
that we had.
if we could have that in there, and I think just going, even if, as you maintain this as an electronic document, like, if that's great, that plan exists, like, we can, you know, kinda link it in here. I think the same thing with PD, I'm sure you have a list of all the PD and the different things that they've done. I just would love for new board members, for parents that are interested, to be able to, like, look at it, and so see if this
feel
should be a
like-
living document that
Mhm.
has links to different things that either, like, so you presented some of these things to us, especially on like the CSS. Those presentations that were at the board level are great, like they, in my opinion, should be linked on there so that if parents and stuff come across this plan, we can see that there's proof points to the vision planning and it's not just,
I like that.
I visit it once
And
every
I'd
few
like,
years.
if it's possible, I'd like it like linked of like, in addition to the opportunity to attend, but like, which teachers are using the opportunity to get their master, like, tuition, like reimbursement, like, because if they started as a bachelor and now they're getting their masters and we've given them all that reimbursement, now we can say we have another teacher that has their masters. Like, you know, obviously, there should be like a doc of like, how many teachers have gotten that. I would like to see, like,
But where does that fall on this? I guess, is that more on like the professional
it's
development
PD,
stuff?
it's
Okay.
PD and professional growth, like I would say, just like anything, because you're seeing the growth of your staff, because there's money that's tied to it, like, there's
Right.
money tied in the teacher's contract to it.
Sure.
Like, I just would like to see how many
Even
teachers.
like the annual dollar amount spent on investing back in the staff, because we know it's a lot smarter to invest in retaining staff versus having to go out and recruit new staff all the time. That's a big piece of our contract. And so anytime we can say, and look, this dollar amount within one school year was the investment made back in our own staff, whether that's tuition reimbursement, the cost of professional development, bringing in speakers, upgrading technology, whatever that looks like. I think anytime we can really highlight that and bring it back to our staff and our community to show the commitment on the board's behalf to these visions would be excellent.
It is a reminder to the teachers that
A little
it's
homework.
happening.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true too, new teachers and,
Yeah.
yeah. that
There's
would be
so
nice.
much happening here.
Yeah,
It would
there
just
really
be
is.
great if we can just kind of take, you know, let you take
Sure.
some credit for it so that
Sure.
people can see that it's like the money's where the ideas were, so.
Well, and even as I was reading this before I came, I was trying to think, like I was feeling like there's gotta be more, I know there's more, but I couldn't think of specifics, but like, I feel like you're not bragging enough, like, of all things, and some of them are lumped under
Mhm.
these, but the specifics, like,
And
you've
if
been
you already-
saying are missing and.
Right. And if you're already doing it, like if you already have a technology plan, just like don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
like it'd be great if we could
Have
have a
or-
link to it or
Yep.
have a link to the PD list, not with names, but just, you know, the types
Or
of
a
PD.
Google Drive with those documents shared with us.
Or our
so-
board books.
Yeah.
Yes, I was following the meeting earlier, but it wasn't
Yeah, my
going
phone died,
anywhere.
sorry. Or my computer died.
Back real quick to the one-to-one, are we, and maybe I'm saying this wrong, are we one-to-one for all the grades within the school, like in the classrooms though? Okay,
Yes.
so,
Every student already has a device assigned to
so
them.
I feel like that's also important,
Mhm.
because this almost makes it seem like we're not, you know what I mean?
It's really that they go
And,
home with
and I
them.
hear my
Yeah.
child talk about the use of the technology, and she asked for a Chromebook for Christmas, like, so, like, I was like, okay, if that's what you really want, So I just think like those kind of things, add those in there, cause those are important, like we aren't just down to sixth grade, we're like all across the board too, kids are getting that
Yeah.
technology
You're
piece.
just not going home.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, which I'm okay with.
Right, I know, I was like, thank goodness.
Don't have to bring it home and break it on the bus and.
That's what the insurance is for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, you bet. Good.
Yes.
So then when we start into two, finance and facilities, this is, again, something that we've done a lot with in the last, whatever, timeframe, 6, 8 months, 10 months. Continuing to inform, the board about, current Intuit indices, trends, implications. You just had something in the last report about where we were, with cash in the bank. That's something that we're gonna continue. I think it's a real easy indicator of things, of how you just look at it, and go. Then we continue to do some of the revenue and expenditure pieces. In the past, we've done bond repayment. There's an annual mid-year financial presentation.
Is that coming up next month?
Next month. That's been historically, that was
Yeah.
something that.
Was already.
Yep, before I got here. And then in the budget presentation itself, where we take that time to unpack, exactly what the year before looked like, in real numbers, to take a look at what the upcoming year, is going to hold for us and what that looks like and what some of the major drivers are in that. And then just when we, had our levy presentation and conversations and projections just, here in November and December, we had a lot of conversations about what that looks like and what those implications are. So we continue to focus on that. In the, facilities side of it, this, last summer's work is, as we talked about earlier in the meeting, we're trying to finish up with our solar, but outside of that, that last summer's work is done. Beginning of last summer as well, we had that 5-year facilities plan conversation with Jeremy Wademan, that was really helpful and really enlightening. And then this upcoming summer, we're looking at corridors, in Northbrook, getting that angled glass taken care of, some of their safety things like that. And then we're looking at asbestos and flooring. And then as we just talking about, and even in February, starting that summer 25 conversation about what that looks like.
And even, like, again, if this were kind of a working public document, even just the fact that we brought in GRP Redmond, and that's like part of that facility and strategic plan to keep the campuses up to date, like including, cause that's fairly new.
Mhm.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that's huge for us. Like, I know that they're the ones that are doing that with us, but they're, that's not mentioned, and that's kind of our big thing.
And I think the AC and the HVAC might need to be underlined a few times.
Or put in all caps or something.
With some blinking lights on it. Yeah, I think again, as much as that's there, if there's,
Yeah.
if we have facility updates approved, linking those where they're listed on here so people can kind of see this is what's coming up next year, that's what was done last year, and being as
Yeah, so one of the things that, I was actually working with one of the IT guys on is, so this document is gonna have its own spot under the board on our website. And so then, one of the things that we can do is then we can start putting links
Mhm.
from spots on this
Mhm.
to different documents.
That'd be fantastic.
Yep, so we'll start doing that. I really like all that. And then on the last one, where are we?
No, yeah,
Oh,
next C's.
Yep, 2C, so alternative revenue. We've been talking about, the grant work that's been done. We continue to look at, I think, it was just this fall, Tyler was able to secure a small grant, and so, we're always continuing to look wherever we can to not just rely on, property taxes and.
I think putting even
General
some of the, listing here, some of the grants, I mean, the solar project was only feasible for us with the grants that were there. So like maybe putting that on there too, list any of the grant work we do through GRP.
Yeah, and the lighting grants as well.
Mm-hmm.
You bet. Ooh, that's fun.
Work phone. Serious
So-
vibration.
So it's not fun. Okay.
It's not fun when it's snowing out. Okay. Any other questions in section 2 though before we? No. Okay.
Section 3, one of those that we've really focused on a lot lately. Last summer, doing all of the work, securing entryways, key cards, interior and exterior doorways. It's really been a huge focus. Just in December, our Raptor system finally came online, and we've been kind of kicking that around for a while, but that's finally up and working. And then within the next few weeks, our updated security cameras will be online. So again, a huge.
That's huge. I mean, where we've come in a matter of 2 years is unbelievable.
Yep.
We looked at this before.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Couldn't
Do
agree more.
the buildings, like, has there been any, like, feedback on the Raptor system from the, I would say, the secretaries that have to use it the most
Well,
often?
really the only time that we've used it, is, or that it's seen a lot of use, was in Christmas parties right before.
Hmm.
You know, because the way we have our building set up now, very few people actually come inside the building envelope.
Sure.
You know, they just drop stuff and go. And so, it was, interesting. We made sure that we sent out information, letting people know, hey, make sure you bring your ID. A couple of people forgot and had to go back. It's all right, learning curves, so, yeah, really
Great.
good. Really good.
Those are the people that flash on social media.
No, you know what, we always say that tongue in cheek. The times that really any of our buildings, any of our programs get brought up on social media, the number of, the people who, there's an overwhelming response of, just go talk to them.
Mhm.
Work the process.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how supportive the community and the parents are here. It's just
Yeah,
wonderful.
it's good when they self-direct, like,
Yep.
somebody's like, oh, did you know blah, blah, like, well, did you talk to the school?
Is there school tomorrow?
Oh, I know.
Like, I was looking going, just wait.
Oh, those are the best, but that's everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Then on 3B, with crisis, again, we just got done with our, we try to do something around High Tide every year. We just did our January work on that, and we did our Stop the Bleed training. I was super disappointed that I was busy doing 7 other things that day, and I did not get to personally participate in the Stop the Bleed
Were
training.
you in a meeting
And
that you scheduled and that you know?
It was, couldn't be changed.
Oh.
Do you need
But-
to retrain, like, we could cut somebody and you could, like,
I don't know if you've ever put a tourniquet on somebody at like those partner activities. That's so satisfying. Just, yeah.
Did you guys wanna partner
Yeah,
up
no,
with the
it's-
main office? Like.
I don't know why it is.
Like, oh, fun.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It is.
That's really funny.
It's so good, but the staff really got a lot out of it. And I'm really
Good.
glad that we did
Yeah,
that.
that's huge.
Brad's very disappointed he did not get to participate.
Next time. And then, one of the things that we actually have been doing, on a comprehensive plan to monitor and support, our students is, and we've been doing this, but it really didn't get highlighted recently, is part of our Fast Bridge is, there's actually when we do our triannual benchmarking, there's a social emotional survey that goes along with that. And so when our staff gets those results and they look for different markers and flags, and so then they know which students to pull and have either specific conversations with or put them in small groups And so it's just kind of another way that we really haven't highlighted that we go about doing that.
Is that showing, you know how we talked about, like, do we need to be having some more social work support since we're trying to split those people up? Is that showing that that would be a good investment?
So I think that, I mean, the answer is you can never have enough.
Right.
Right? But also, you know, we're also in an environment right now where we're in the process of deficit spending by 2.5% this year, right? So we're being very cognizant of how we implement things and how we move along. And so one of the things is that just in the last month, our student assistant mentors have been brought online at Northbrook, which is going to be able to take a huge load off of the staff at Northbrook and to be able to allow them to redirect and focus on some different things. So really interested to see how that shakes out and how that, because we started with 2 people, now we're kind of looking, now the regional office has a kind of a floater in, so we're actually seeing a little bit more than 2 people come in. So I know we've had some conversations about what that looks like. So to see how those 2 additional people, because really when you think about the social emotional support or the family support, kind of the non-traditional academic support, you know, we've had the model of 2 social workers and a guidance counselor. Now we're adding to that 2 additional full-time mentors, and so we need some time to kind of settle in and see how that shakes out, to see if and when we need to add in. But that's always a part of the conversation for sure.
When we had our presentation a couple of months ago, I forget her name, I'm sorry, but she mentioned something along the lines of, it was 1 psychiatrist to 1,000 students. Are we, and I know again, that was part of, can we even find someone to fill that space?
They don't
but-
exist, sure.
Yeah, and that's remote. It's not even
Right,
in person.
That
yeah.
just passed away. Or psychologist, or pediatrics.
Is that just what it is? I mean, there's
Kinda is,
no,
for sure.
got it.
School psychs are really hard, I mean, it's really hard, but that's where I say, like, if we can bring in the supports at the lower level and elevate the things that have to get that, I mean, most of the school-based supports can be handled at a much lower
Yep, for
level
sure.
than having to go to school psych or.
For sure.
Okay.
Any other questions on
Section 3.
section 3, whatever it was? Health and safety. So then in community relations, one of the things that we'd actually been doing as of the last time, but we really didn't focus on and highlight, is the fact that these meetings, all of our board meetings are posted on YouTube. I think we do a lot to have a transparency of what happens at the board level, and I think that's important to recognize and celebrate. The monthly board packet, there's an abridged version that we sent it to everybody in the staff, all 170 plus whatever staff members get a copy of that, right? We want to communicate, we want to facilitate those conversations as much as possible. Another thing that we really didn't highlight but have kind of been ongoing is, I don't know, probably quarterly or so, we have the opportunity to, in one of the local newspapers, to highlight something. They'll run, there'll be a magazine that'll run a little something, and we'll have a full page on some of the things that have been going on, and so we'll have the opportunity to highlight those. And plus a couple times a year, I get on with Charles and do some radio work and highlight there. So we try to make sure that we have, it's not just the website and the electronic blast that we're continuing to do.
You still gonna get on with Charles? Isn't he going to a new radio station?
He'll find me.
Do you still do the superintendent, your blog that you had?
Not as often as I need to. I
Yes.
need to be better at that.
Those are so hard to maintain though. I mean.
Well, especially if you
I've
set
heard-
We'll be
very
better, right,
aggressive
Gloria?
expectations.
We'll be better.
Yeah, you had the expectation of your face with your glasses
I
out
know,
there, and then all of
I
a
know.
sudden, No more face and no glasses.
What happened to that guy?
We'll
That's
keep-
a little
What happened to
He's writing
the
it
younger
down.
version of Harry Carey with no hair?
Oh.
I've been called worse.
No, but like the glasses.
No, I got you. That's good. That's good.
He calls it the younger version at
That's
least.
right.
Yeah, that version.
Now, I was gonna ask, because somebody had asked me about the December meeting and it's still not on YouTube. And I didn't know if they could be posted maybe like within a couple days of the actual meeting so that like this information is fresh instead of even like 2 weeks later is almost late, you know? Cause it's almost meant to be like live, but not live,
Yeah.
if I
can-
understand correctly.
Yeah, we can definitely double check
Okay.
with those timelines.
It could be live, but it's easier to just do
Or
it
it
this
could
way,
be.
but maybe if we can get it on a couple days or within a couple days,
Yep.
And maybe
especially not, or especially before the next meeting.
And maybe promote that on the social media page too, like board meetings. Here's the link.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
like I would share that for sure,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Yep, we can definitely look into those timelines.
Social media is great though. There's several people that can post to that, right?
We have probably a half a dozen or maybe 8 different gatekeepers.
That's awesome.
Spread throughout the district.
You can tell. I mean, if you look back several years ago, like, it was like 1 in a million, like, it's lots every day.
Yeah, our
I
live
like
feed's
to
really
see
nice.
them. Those
And
are
that-
very
and
nice.
that's not a stipend position, that's like admin doing it, right?
Or building secretaries.
Yeah,
Yep.
like,
Yeah,
I'm just.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, and that Aptigee has been, not only is it seamless and linked, because it's the same company with the website, but then also with the app, and so Aptigee Rooms, I think, is the communication piece of that. It's like anything else, some teachers have used it a lot, some not as much, and so, you know, I think some are still getting a little more comfortable with that, but lots of good feedback on that.
I would say that just from like my parent experience, I got a couple different pieces of reminders about using it, and I already knew we were going to be using it. And it was called different things at different times. So one time it just said Aptigee in like the email, and then the next time there was a paper that came home that said Rooms.
Gotcha.
And they weren't coming together as like the same thing, and it seemed like a teacher was maybe like switching to this and now I actually just talked to another parent the other day who was like, how do I get on Rooms? And I don't know if they like need that code from the very beginning of the year, so I don't know how to like if the teachers can resend those mid-year or, you know what I mean? Cause I think the parent that I was talking to had a Northbrook student that I guess like is gonna be in an extracurricular now and needs the reminders from it, and they don't know how to get on it now, cause
That's
they
the only
didn't
reason
get
I
on
got
it
on
at the beginning
it.
of
The
the year.
coaches are
So-
really good about saying, here's where we're gonna put
Yes,
it.
so I've used it and it works great for the quick messaging with the teacher and everything, but I do think that the lingo around it is maybe confusing.
Yeah, you bet.
I was gonna say also going back to the, posting the link for the board meeting instead of, I mean, also along with that, but like a summary of what was talked about.
Yeah,
So
we
maybe
talked
they don't
about
have
that,
time
yeah.
to sit through the
Watch,
whole
yeah,
hour,
correct,
you
yeah,
know?
that's true.
And also translate that in Spanish, parents are also.
If
able
you're
to-
already submitting that to all of your staff, like the smaller version, could that also be like linked?
Can it be in the description under the video?
Yeah, let me see what we can do.
Cause you can put like descriptions under videos, right?
Or, yeah, or even just the meeting highlights included, approval of the 24-25 school year, review of, you know, annual
They just did that for
goals,
in high school.
Yes, they did. They just did a
Be-
summary of their meeting.
Yeah,
I
with
really
the
enjoyed
different
that.
points.
Yeah, I did too.
I was like, oh, nice, so I didn't
I
even
felt like
have
I
to.
attended that meeting.
Yeah, I was like, another meeting I attended.
Yeah, good.
Right, I don't know if it makes even sense somewhere on our website if we Digi, this is how you use, then we have a separate app called Teacher Ease, this is where you do this with, and when registration is in this app, you can pay in this app, you know, like kind of
All your apps.
maybe a little, yeah, or like the systems that, almost like a dictionary of systems that we use for that digital footprint, so we kind of understand what we're talking about.
And especially if someone came from a different district that
Right.
doesn't use it.
I mean, is it the goal for like all the teachers to be on the same platform as far as like some are messaging on Teacher Ease through that and some are doing just email and some are doing the rooms? Like, is that part of the streamline or are teachers
This-
free to use whatever's easiest for them?
The
or-
streamline is if they're gonna use an app to use rooms.
Okay,
Because before, and, you know, we definitely encourage, you know, whatever is gonna be successful, whether it's Teacher Ease, or Gmail. But then outside of that,
Okay.
we were having 4 or 5 different
lots
apps.
of apps, correct,
Dojo
and there are
and
lots of,
Remind
there are
and-
lots of
yeah.
apps,
Right,
yes.
and so now, we certainly encourage, Teacher Ease and email as well,
Okay.
if that's being successful.
Yep.
But if they're gonna use an app,
It should be that.
it's rooms.
Okay.
Yep. Super easy.
Mhm.
It's kind of like,
Please remember for teams.
but this has like folders where they can put like schedules or
Oh,
calendars or whatever, and there's
It
also
is-
the stream, like the constant, you know,
Yeah.
posting stream thing.
Kind of like a Google Classroom kind of.
It is, it's a lot
Yeah.
of Google Classroom.
Okay, and then, the only other thing that I had on here was that, starting next month, we're gonna have a district-wide committee. One of the things that we'll be talking about is branding, to try to, have that common message and vision, out to not only staff, but also community, and so see if we can make some progress along those
I
lines.
feel like the new app, the new website, and that 289 logo is great. Like, I feel like that's our logo, and I still feel like the buildings separately in their own way, but I do like how that looks.
Yeah,
And that's
definite
what I
progress.
love, yeah.
Definitely.
If anything, like the visuals there, and I think now it's like, okay, so what does the brand represent? Like,
Yeah.
what are the shared things across the building?
Mhm.
What are because branding is so much more than a graphic. I think on 4D it would be nice to see, I'm sure there's things going on there, whether they're bringing in like guest speakers or,
Yeah, that's the one
you
I was
know,
trying to think.
trying
I know
new
there's stuff
things
this
in
year.
art class, whatever. I mean, I feel like we keep hearing new things all the time, so I'm sure that the principals would be able to give us some there. But I mean, that when we brought on ag to our 8th graders, I know like my own son, like, said he's most excited about going through next year is being able to do that. And as we looked at that, we talked about like having the sports club for kids to try. Like, there's just so many things that I think are either happening or in the works
Yep.
to happen that we should capture there, because that's,
And to kind of go on that, I like the principal's report, but I like the visual like we've gotten from like Paula or even Heather the other day. Like at a certain point, I'd like to see like pictures of the kids that are the, like to tie, not just the names and like, you know what I mean, like maybe like a slideshow. Because then that's something that could maybe go out and really show what we're doing or supposed to.
maybe instead of having that be like their monthly though, because that's a lot.
Quarterly.
Yeah, or when we when we bring our show to their building, could that be part of it, that they kind of do a mini showcase and feature some pictures, and some, you know, whatever their theme is, and like some fun stuff that's going on, can that be shared with the board and then put online?
Not like an open house of the day. The board.
Right, cause we do that, I mean, when we're there, they kind of brag on their building and tour the building and tell us about
Right.
the different things they're doing and stuff, and so maybe we capture that into Google Slides or something, then it can be shared more broadly with the community. That would be a neat time to have them do that, cause I think monthly would be hard, cause they're already capturing that stuff to send out.
Cause we
Newspapers
adding to
and-
their,
Right.
People are
List.
adding to the list.
and we're not taking anything away.
I think one thing you
I
could
just
do
see
for
it
the.
We're trying to,
breaking
maybe
down,
an
I'm
assistant
like,
principal.
Oh God, Brant's got a lot of.
I think one of the-
Renegotiate that contract.
Yeah.
We already voted on it.
We just approved it.
Sorry.
Put your notebook out.
We
Yeah,
approved
that's
it
right.
before we gave you this list,
Right,
sorry.
I noticed that.
You should have talked about this
I think the
first.
principal's
For
report
sure.
though, it is an incredible amount of information. If you wanna sit with them and like, if that is a burden, it's okay if we like pare down a little, or if you wanna build
Yep.
like a template that makes more sense for them, and then have them know that, you know, if you're gonna have these periodic, you know, MTSS presentation, and then our, you know, SPED presentation, and then your, you know, building showcase, but I think you'll have these other opportunities, don't feel like you have to put it all.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want it to ever be a burden.
I don't need to know, like, you had this many discipline,
Oh,
like.
see, I like that, Dina.
I see, yeah,
Yeah, I do,
I don't, cause you know what,
That's
yeah.
just,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, just throwing it out there, that Lincoln shouldn't be expected for next month to have like a big show presentation.
Oh, he will, come on.
I'm just saying, like.
But they already have, I mean, they've posted so many pictures on Facebook, honestly, if somebody.
I love
Well,
those
I feel like
pictures.
the least amount have been Lincoln ones, maybe. There have been a lot this year.
I like those pictures from Lincoln, the day back to school, like,
Yeah,
that made me
that's
go, thank God, like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like.
Holiday pictures were fun, yeah.
Yes,
it
that's
was,
true.
it was good.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah. None of that's regional.
Can, maybe Jeff just wants to stay out of retirement, out of retirement.
He's doing great.
Is there any other questions on the vision update? Before we adjourn, I did want, I don't know how I just kind of alluded to it, and we talked about calendar already, but I think, one thing I had a note on was like the e-learning plan. I know it's like the time of year where people are starting to plan their plans for the following school year. I'd be really curious to know where our teachers and parents are at with what that would look like. And it's a very mixed bag, because I think at the higher levels, it is a lot more engaging when you can still have interaction with your teacher, when you have a device at home, when you're doing that. At the younger grades, it can sometimes be sort of a free day, play day, that doesn't get made up, but then you balance that with, but then if we're making that up on the other end, you know, are they really that much engaged that far in? I'm especially thinking like worst case scenario, like maybe there's a way to introduce it that the first 4 days will still be traditional snow days. But if we exceed that and all of a sudden we're out for 9 or 11, you know, like what happens? Like, are we seriously gonna be going through June? I think having kind of a backup plan to that, I've been paying a close attention and kind of doing some research on my own about what different districts do. And a lot of districts have pulled away from, right after COVID, everybody was like, oh, here's our e-learning plan, and like every snow day is no longer a snow day. That's what my district does right now. I don't think that that's effective after a long period of time. Some districts have said, okay, we'll have a max of 2 e-learning days or 3 e-learning days, then we'll go to snow days, and if we exceed this many, then we'd go back to it. So there's like a good representation of
Making
classroom
some up,
and,
but,
right,
you know, we
but
can't make them all.
what if the polar vortex comes back again after we've had this many snow days, and now all of a sudden it's, you know, end of
Yeah.
June, like what is backup plan?
Yeah, so one of the things that, one of the groups that I know is gonna be meeting here in the near future is that Blackstone Lincoln Tech Committee. And so that's really gonna be a huge driver in all of this conversation. You can do pretty successful e-learning at Northbrook, with not a lot of prep. But once you start getting with younger and younger students, then it's more problematic. So we can have
But
those
like
conversations.
those schools that have those e-learning plans, like the E is emergency, not like the electronic side. So I mean,
Yeah.
like for the younger kids, it tends to be that they come home with day 1, 2, and 3 snow packet. the end of fall, and it just sits there, and you know what, a lot of it is based on play and exploration and stuff, but sometimes, like, I mean, in reality, a lot of their day is spent on play and exploration, and, you know, using that opportunity, like, there was, some of the packets had cute things, like, if you grab a cup of snow, like, order something, like, little science projects you could do with snow, or recipes you could do with snow, like, real life learning that in some ways is still beneficial. And I just wonder, as we balance that, like, having some of that mixed in as opposed to keeping kids in school longer should we exceed X number of days would be something I'm really interested, I mean, but I would want to make sure there's an appetite for it amongst the staff first and foremost,
Well,
and parents, but.
I guess my question is, okay, if the kids are home, who's gonna be doing it with them? A lot of parents are working, or they're at a daycare center, or they're with a small daycare group, or they've been shipped off to grandma and grandpa's that day.
Right.
Not
I
And
mean,
that's
I
why
guess
a lot
with
of it-
younger kids, I'm going,
That's why a lot, like, the plans I've seen is like, try to read at least 20 minutes independently at grades above, you know, whatever below, you know, has whatever time, but when you look at when school days count even for our 11:35 dismissals, like, that counts on the calendar as a day, like, how much productivity is there in the school building in those 3 hours? Like, can we try to take that same element, and I'm not saying replace all of them, because in that situation, I don't think it's valuable, and that's what my current situation is. I don't think it's valuable for kids after 6 or 7 or 8 days of doing the packets. But I do think having that plan in place and understanding where our community sits, because if we did have to go mid-June and our kids are coming back early August, like that would be tough too.
Well, the reality of it is the first 5 days are the only days you make up.
Period.
Period. And so there's huge value in, if you do have to use them for 5 days, what models can you have in place to get at least some value
Continue the learning.
out of
right.
days that you won't make up? And so that's a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Just understanding where we sit, because I've seen it both ways. I've seen schools that don't do it all, some that do too much of it, and I'm loving the models that are kind of coming in between where they're really surveying their community and understanding. I think I could do it for a day, but I would want us to do it for a week, you know, or if we've already had a traditional 3 snow days and we're gonna exceed that, we'd like to be able to drop the next 2 in as e-learning days so that you don't lose that time on the other end. And maybe even some of the thinking around how the high school decided, because they've done both recently. They've had some of each. I wonder how they decided that would be interesting too. Not a fan.
I don't know, I've had to,
3 what?
even days.
Alright, and the snow's gonna stop now, so we don't have to even talk about it.
That's right.
Yeah, hopefully.
It's gonna be,
That's it.
gonna be sunny.
It's gonna be spring next week.
Thanks, Brenda. I mean,
See, I did it in. Is there anything else anyone wanna discuss before we adjourn? Make sure you send lots of reminders close to February 15th that the location is not at Lincoln and on here. Because we'll all forget.
I walked up going, "Was you here tonight?" And then looked at you going, "That's here."
Okay, awesome, thank you. Could we have a motion to adjourn at 7:50?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:50.
Second. All in favor?
I heard, are you taking a picture before we all leave?